1. And welcome back. I forgot to do the countdown thing, but we're back. That's all right. Episode number 78 of Raise the Banner podcast. We're back as usual. Your three co-hosts, Zach Brewitt, Benny Ball Game Darth, showing off a new look today. Myself, Matt Couture. And that's where we're going to start. Ben is in his Yellow City Connect Red Sox jersey. He is repping New England in a Market Basket brown paper bag. Ben, I think it's like self-explanatory here. We have to give you the floor first. What are your thoughts on the Boston Red Sox? They fall again today to make that 2 extra inning losses in a row to the Milwaukee Brewers. Where's your head at? I mean, I know where it's at, but just go ahead.
It's in this paper bag because I don't want to show my face. The face on the bag says it all. It's a little bit of sadness with a lot of angry eyebrows. If the Red Sox can find, if there's a way to lose a game, the Red Sox will figure out how to do it. That seems to be the theme of the week. Just finding weird ways to lose games. It's kind of infuriating at this point. I understand that they went up against a pretty decent pitcher in Freddie Peralta, but yeah, I'm kind of at a loss for words at this point. Not sure where it begins, where it ends, but it's becoming infuriating at this point. I did see something on X today that since Chris Sale struck out Manny Machado to end the 2018 World Series, big shocker, the Red Sox have 464 wins and 464 losses. This team is legitimately a 500 ball club over the last, call it 19, 21, 22, 23, 24, call it 6 seasons. The 5.5 seasons, I realize the 2020 season was abridged due to COVID. But between that and we're 57, 58 games into the year, so a little bit more than 5.5 seasons since that moment worth of games, and they are 500 on the dot. It's pretty sad. I think I've slipped into madness more so than just being willing to ride the wave.
Yeah, first of all, my question is: are you wearing this the whole Red Sox segment just for the rant? Is this whole episode thing?
No, it's pretty hot in this bag because it's pretty hot in my house. So I'm gonna take this off momentarily.
All right.
I think I did prove the point, so maybe soon.
I think at this point, we went into the season with the Red Sox feeling confident that they could be contenders. To their benefit, the AL East is not what it was last year. Not what it was last year. Not even close. So they're still not far off. What's that say?
Ironically, it says here's to feeling good all the time, and maybe this is what it's going to take because the Red Sox don't make me feel good.
Yeah, they're in trouble. The matter of the fact is they got multiple injuries to the lineup. They can't hit if they're dependent on it. They got Costas who's out for the year. They got Bregman who's seemingly going to be out at least a month or so.
Feels like more than that.
Yeah, Mayer is now up. We'll see what happens with that. But they are struggling to score runs. They're struggling to finish games. They're struggling to win close games. They're struggling to put together complete, offense and defense and pitching games all together. You'll have a game either there, Giolito the other day goes 6 or 7 scoreless, and they lose the game. Crochet, Ben, you mentioned it to me. They're 6-6 in his starts. Guys got a 2 ERA in your 6-6 in these 2 starts. So they'll go up and they'll put up a game like it was last night. Pitching was great. They let up 0 runs up until the 9th inning. It was 1-0. Chapman blows the save. they lose in extras. Today, they put up four or five runs, they lose in extras. It seems like they can't put together a really complete games, and they're losing games in every fashion. It's becoming like you don't really want to watch the games right now because it's more frustrating than anything else. And we can dive, deeper into all that. But Zach, where are you on all this? Are you kind of in a similar boat? What's your thought process?
Yeah, Ben said he was at a loss for words. I'll keep it in a similar boat and use the word, just one word, which is failure. Really across the board, it's been a colossal failure from everyone except for the front office. For years, we complained about the front office not, ponying up any dollars, I don't know what that filter is, Ben, but
it's like, what's that background, Ben?
very cozy.
It is. It's more cozy than
It's your summer house.
It's more cozy than a clubhouse in Fenway. But
yes,
across the board, it's been a colossal failure.
Yes, it has been.
Yeah. So and it really began from the offseason and when Devers was complaining about not playing first base because he wanted to play third, not being a DH, he wanted to play third. Cora's strong suit was supposedly being a player's manager. That has been the detriment, I think, of this season so far. Liam Hendricks came out and was outspoken about him not getting enough reps, not getting enough outings. Comes out, gives up a grand slam to lose the game. Like nothing has been going right for this team, and I think again it's been a failure across the board from the players. From Alex Cora came on a couple of weeks ago and said that Cora is on the hot seat. I don't know if it is reality or not, but he absolutely should be. He has made a number of bad moves as a manager. The drive line thing has been a colossal failure thus far, and Andrew Bailey's pitching guru-ness, if you will, has also worn off. So there's really nothing to point to at this point in the season that tells you everything's been good. Marcelo Meyer's been good, but it's been 3 games, whatever it's been. So the word of the day of this podcast is failure. A couple weeks ago, it was ass. This is now failure.
Well, yeah. I mean, we post Celtics, there was ass for the Sox, then it was failure for the Celtics, and now we're continuing the failure. A trend that I don't really like continuing when it comes to crossing Boston sports.
No.
But the matter of fact is they're in deep shit. And there continues to be, they made one move. They brought up Mayer, which I think is 100% the correct move. Mm-hmm. They finally made that decision. The other decision, though, kind of still sits there, and that is that Roman Anthony continues to waste away in AAA. We talked about, I went on a rant. You guys know I'm usually a pretty optimistic person. I went on a rant a couple weeks ago about, does this team actually prioritize winning?
No.
And until Roman Anthony is on this roster and playing every day, I don't think that you can tell me they do. Because he is very, very, very clear-cut, a top 9 healthy player for this team right now. You cannot give me 9 players. Now, I know it's a little bit different with positions and all that, but given Rafaela's ability to play around the diamond, there is no reason why the starting outfield every day is not Duran, Abreu, and Roman Anthony. That's just how it is. I know that's 3 lefties. I know that makes them a little bit too left-handed heavy. I don't care. I don't care.
The best lineup contains Trevor Story being DFA'd. Whether you want to put Rafaela at short, Mayer at short, Devers now won't pick up a glove, so you can't put him at third. So maybe you got to put Rafaela at short, and Mayer continues to play at third with, as you said, outfield of Abreu, Anthony, and Duran in center, with, I guess, Christian Campbell at first, and then second base is continuing to be someone.
Be Rafaela.
Rafaela, go there.
I'm a big Rafaela, like, I don't want to say hater, but like, I don't believe in his bat whatsoever. But as a utility guy, I can deal with it. You know what I mean? Like a guy that's not playing every day, I can deal with that if he plays a good defense, and he can mix in at center field, as well with days off for other guys. But they're in big trouble.
Yeah, I was higher on Rafaela than maybe most players were, and for the simple fact that like if JBJ, he was kind of like my JBJ, but it's a different type of bad bat. JBJ couldn't hit a fastball that was 85 miles an hour down the plate. Rafaela can't lay off a curveball down and away to save his life. It's like the undisciplinedness and the dumbness on the base paths that just infuriates me about Rafaela. And I was higher on him.
The struggle with this situation is, I would say in theory he's better than JBJ. It's not that Rafaela is bad in terms of a general baseball player.
No,
he's not great, but with this defense, it's the fact that they have just better options. That's really it all comes down to. If they didn't have Anthony and they had a weak outfield, like no one would be making these comments because he would be one. If he was a top 3 outfield, we wouldn't be complaining about this. But the fact is, it's very clear that they have a top 3 outfield. That does not include Rafaela, and that doesn't even include when we talk about like a Ref Snyder who smashes lefties. You know what I mean? So you could put Ref Snyder, and you go with those 3 as your main outfielders, and you can mix Ref Snyder in there versus lefties with Abreu, with Anthony, with Duran. Like you could give them days off. Again, you can give Rafaela, a mix out there too. But Rafaela should not be a full-time outfielder. And I know that's tough because he's a great defensive center fielder, but that's just, they need hitting.
Just the nature of where they
desperately need to put runs on the board. And Anthony is sitting down in AAA, just wasting away. And we're just sitting here watching this team lose. Tough game, extra inning loss, 1-0 loss, 3-1 loss. And then they'll turn and lose 8-7 because the pitching blows up, but then all of a sudden they decide to hit. And then Story, I want the guy to work out as much as the next guy, but it's not.
He's not going to work out. Yeah.
So
what he is.
I would say that their best bet right now is to toss him on the IL, give him a couple weeks off, give him a long AAA or AA, in the minors rehab stint, like teams do all the time. Let him try to figure it out, and in the meantime, Mayer can be your starting shortstop, or Rafaela can be your starting shortstop, and Mayer could be at third. That is your best bet. You can bring up a guy like Vaughn Grissom, who is probably he's going to be a better hitter than Story right now. That's just the fact of it. Sogard, again, he's been a better hitter than Story. So again, this all goes back to my biggest question is, are the Red Sox trying their best to win baseball games? And the answer is no. It's just not. They're not.
But how could they be trying to win their best baseball games when for the past 5 years under Cora, except for 2021, it's been a culture of just losing. He came back in 2018 or 2019 after they won in 2018, choked away, what should have been a great season. And 2020 happened after he got caught cheating, and then a good year in 2021, and then it's been 3 straight years of the basement. So it's just been everyone's come up and they've been groomed and they've brought up in the system of failing. So no one cares about winning anymore. And it's just dude, at what point has there been what point are we going to make a full-on culture change? And it starts at the top, really. But if Breslow is going to make a move, which I don't think he's ultimately going to, I think Cora is
a lot of blame gets put on Breslow. I don't. I think that, what did we want this offseason?
No,
we
I'm not
wanted
blaming
it
Breslow at all.
our-
I think
No, I know you're not, but I'm just
Yeah.
like I've seen a lot of like pressure on Breslow, but like I really don't put much blame unless he's the one like truly holding Anthony back. That's one thing. But like we wanted them to go get an ace, and what did they do? They went and got an ace. We wanted them to sign a right-handed bat in the middle of the order. What did they do? They went and got that. Like he filled their biggest needs.
everything we asked for,
And-
he went
and yeah, and so it really comes down to just like the performance on the baseball field, and that goes into, and that can be my next question, you guys, is like who deserves the most blame here? Are we putting it on the players that like they just need to be better? Are we throwing it on the hitting coach? Are we throwing it on Andrew Bailey, the pitching coach? Are we throwing it on Cora? Where's your distribution blame pie here with and the Red Sox aren't like 12 games under 500. It's not like that. They can turn it around any day now still. But they should be better, maybe 5 to 7 games at least better. But who's to blame right now in you guys' eyes of why they are where they are right now?
So if you're gonna split this up into 3 components, front office, management, and players is kind of, and I include ownership in the front office component. Zach kind of brought it up, like the culture feels like it's a problem, and I do put some of the blame at the feet of ownership because ownership has basically said Alex Cora is untouchable. That I mean, this is now his 3rd GM in 6.5 years. I realize that he got hired under a different GM, so take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. But he went from Dombrowski, they brought in Chaim Bloom, and then when Chaim Bloom got the boot, Breslow was told you can't not have, like, that was part of the, and it wasn't Breslow, it was any GM that interviewed had to keep Alex Cora. Anybody who wanted their own manager was not considered for the job. So I'm a little bit more on the front office blame than Matt is. So I kind of give it like, it's probably 50% on Breslow. It's probably like 35% Cora, and then I don't know what the 15% players. Something in that range. The offseason still felt a little incomplete, if you will. Like, yes, they got an ace. Yes, they got a right-handed bat. I don't, injuries happen. And this feels tough for Bregman. I'm not expecting to see him until mid-end of July. Like, if he comes back before the All-Star break, I'll be genuinely surprised. He basically said that this injury is reminiscent of his prior quad injury, which I believe was 2021 or 2022.
I think it was 21.
And it cost him 60 games, just shy, 58 games to be specific. So, like, from an offensive standpoint, right? I feel like this is it's a lack of depth behind the stars. So Bregman was cooking with gas in the beginning of the season. Evers obviously got off to a ridiculously crazy, atrocious start. But, and I messaged this to Matt today, I was listening to the last Section 10, which came out, what's today? Wednesday? Came out on Sunday. And on his current pace, Rafael Devers is on pace for only the second seat player in the last 15 years to have 35 or more home runs and 140 or more RBIs in the same season. The only other player was Aaron Judge, 2022. I think that was his 62 homer season. So to me, it's a lack of depth, and that's more of a front office problem than it is a managerial issue. And not to say the Cora doesn't deserve blame, because allegedly Alex Cora's best asset is that he's a player's coach, player's manager. And to me, he doesn't really feel like a guy who has the pulse of his team where his players are willing to do what's necessary for the team. And that's very reminiscent. And that's heavily at the feet of Rafael Devers, a guy who I get he's probably being a little bit petty because of how the offseason went, where, yes, the prior regime promised him things that the new regime did not honor. Like, he should have gotten over that. But the whole comments of, oh, well, they told me to put my glove away. I'm a DH, so I'm not going to play. I'm not going to play first. Well, and now that Bregman's out with a quad injury, like, I don't know. They haven't really gone back there. So who knows? But that's where I feel like Cora gets the blame. It doesn't feel like he has a pulse on the team. The complete mismanagement of the bullpen, I think, speaks to, I don't think his in-game decision-making has been very good. And I'd really have to do a deep dive into see if that's a chronic problem or if that's a 2025 Red Sox issue. Because the bullpen kind of sort of isn't that much different than last year. Obviously they add Chapman. Hendricks comes back from his injury. Chris Martin is gone. But the bullpen otherwise is relatively unchanged. Like, they swapped out Chris Martin and Kenley Jansen for Aroldis Chapman and Liam Hendricks. But otherwise, it's relatively the same. It's Whitlock, it's Slayton, it's Weissert, Bernardino. Like, all those guys were here last year. So, I think it's more of like he doesn't manage the bullpen correctly. I mean, and I don't necessarily think that that's 100% on him, because you have guys like Brian Bayo who hasn't pitched 5+ innings in what feels like dating back to last year. Like, when was the last time Brian Bayo got you into the 5th inning, let alone through 4 innings, let alone through 5? I'd have to look at the box score. I didn't check today, but I know going into today, he hadn't gone more than 5 innings since the end of 2024. So players need to play. But the reason that I'm still a little bit on Breslow is that, yes, he added Garrett Crochet and then they extended him. He gets all the credit in the world for that. It was a great trade. It's what they needed. And then they paid the guy. But the problem is you're 6-6 in his 12 starts, despite the fact that he's pitching like a Cy Young Award winner at this point through this point in the season. But they have nothing behind him in the rotation. Tanner Houck has been worse than second half Tanner Houck last year, which is almost unfathomable. Like, how that's even possible is mind-boggling. But they're getting Walker Buehler was decent up until the point of his injury. And then, of course, he gets thrown out of the game. I don't remember what he did. I don't think he was that special in his last start. But then, the back end of the rotation isn't doing anything. So, yeah, the bullpen's being mismanaged, but he's needed to ask the bullpen to pitch 5+ innings, what feels like 4 out of 5 games, because Garrett Crochet is the only guy that can get into the 6th and the 7th inning, whereas anybody else can't do it. Players need to play, but I think that it's more of I'm probably 60-40 blame front office versus Cora, but I think that the needle's starting to move more where it's yeah, this is the team you have, Cora, but your job is to win games with what you have.
Yeah, I want to back up or maybe walk back a comment that I made before of not fully blaming Breslow. I don't blame him for the roster that's been put together. A little bit incomplete. Even at the end of signing Bregman, there was still that feeling of we need another right-handed bat. Into the comment, Matt, that you just pulled up, probably half the reason they called up Campbell instead of Roman Anthony, despite Roman Anthony being more healthy, was they needed a right-handed bat. So I get that part, but where I guess I agree more so with the numbers in terms of what Ben said in terms of 60-40 Breslow / front office, which is the mindset of the team. He's the one who has brought in, Andrew Bailey, his, as I mentioned before, his pitching style, his pitching sort of mindset of no fastballs, only breaking balls. People have caught on to that, and they haven't changed it. Slayton is a shell of himself. Hendricks is pumping fastballs down the pipe. Everybody outside of Chapman you're kind of holding your breath and expecting the worst. Whitlock they did the same thing to him that they did did the Daniel Bard back in the day. They tried to make him a starter and completely ruined him, and now he's a shell of himself as well. The players are who they are. You can't really blame them for needing to be better than they are. They are who they are. David Hamilton is who he is. You think in terms of the depth, that's a Cora and a front office decision together. Like Cora has held on to these guys who are nowhere near as good as they need to be because he's too much of a player's manager. The driveline thing is feels like it's Breslow's thing. That's been a colossal failure at this point. They lead the league in strikeouts by far. It's just this mindset has been wrong and it hasn't worked. It's been a failure. Going back to the word of the day. Yes, Cora has absolutely messed up the bullpen at times. It feels like every time there's a player's dispute, it's him taking the player side and being too lenient there. Rafael Devers, number one, him continuing to hang on to David Hamilton and Romy Gonzalez when you have Vaughn Grissom and players who are better down in the minors. But I think it starts at the top. Cora can only really do what Breslow and front office allow him to do and put in front of him. I think it's 60-40, 65-35 Breslow, because he's the one who's putting these foundational pieces in place for Cora to then go and execute on. And without those, as I mentioned, driveline, without Andrew Bailey and his cultural shift of the bullpen and pitching staff, you have to wonder what it would look like if Cora had his way. But again, Cora's had the same problems for 5 years, so we're kind of in this space of we know who you are, and to your point, Ben, it's time to go execute. The excuses are run up. We're tired of it. Cora and the players can bitch all they want about wanting starters and right-handed bats and power bats and this and that. Well, Breslow got it for you, and John Henry paid up finally. So now you, as you said, have to go play and perform and you play the cards.
Part of it for me is when I talk about like them putting their best foot forward, is players within their own lineup in their own organization that's just simply not getting enough time. They finally pulled the plug on Tanner Houck and put him on the IL, but like there is no question about it that going forward, the rotation should be Crochet, Bayo, Giolito, Buehler, and Fitz. Those are your best 5 pitchers right now. What they do with Hunter Dobbins is up to them. If they want to put him back in the minors, if they want to keep him in the bullpen, that's an option. When Tanner Houck returns, I mean, you can maybe try to one more shot in the rotation, but I would be putting him back in the bullpen. I've always felt like the best version of himself is in the bullpen. He has shined at times as a starter. We saw that last year for the first half of the season. But that's just it. I mean, we're back to square one with him of what is he for this team, and I think that is more likely in the bullpen, and he's not going to be happy about that. But that's just the truth of it. So again, is Cora going to say we're going to do what's best for this team? And I don't have a lot to say that I think he will. The only reason that I think that he might is he kind of doesn't have a choice. Like there's a clear top 4. Excuse me. You're not taking Bayo, Giolito, Buehler, and Crochet out. So like those 4 are kind of locked in there. The only question really is like, are you going to remove Fitz for Houck? And Fitz, even in his first game back, when I think it was like 4 solid innings, prior to the injury that he had, he was pitching pretty good through his first 2 or 3 outings. So if he continues to kind of pitch the ball pretty well, mid 3 ERA guy, high 3 ERA guy, maybe, like that's gonna get you in the rotation, and it should not even let Houck scratch the rotation again. Because again, we talked about it. Like Dobbins is arguably a better player, and an option for them in the rotation right now too.
Yeah. So I go back to, and I'll just play devil's advocate just for the sake of having the debate. So, because while I agree, Tanner Houck needs to earn his spot back. outside of Garrett Crochet and Bueller, to a degree, right? Like you could argue that Fitz and Dobbins have more or less at least shown like serviceability and competency to be like league average MLB starters at this point, right? Like obviously they're younger guys, so there's still some growth and development that can take place. But like at least right now, there's no pitcher behind Garrett Crochet, in my opinion, that you could definitively say this person should 100% be in the rotation over a Tanner Houck outside of Walker Bueller, because I think he's like, you can see that there's something there. Granted, he was a little hot-headed in the I forget what series that was.
You
got
play the Trends. The Trends, but
correct.
Like Giolito and Bayo have been clear-cut better players so far.
I mean, that's also not saying much. Because,
yeah. I mean, if like, Bayo's a mid-4 guy and Houck becomes a low-4 guy, then we're in a different conversation. But
so you look at like today. So I brought up I just happened to bring up Brian Bayo's stats. So he's gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutive starts where he has not gotten through the 5th inning. And that includes today.
That's his biggest issue.
Four and 2. I'd have to look at his pitch count, but 4 2/3, 3 hits, 1 earned, 2 walks, 2 Ks in his start today. He doesn't give up a ton of runs, but the problem is he doesn't go deep into ball games. So like I look at it and say that should Houck go to the bullpen to start? 100%. He's probably your first guy to go to a spot start if Giolito can't go for any particular reason. He eats some bad chicken, gets sick, like whatever, right? Arm goes south, who knows? But I look at it and think that like this kind of goes back to the depth piece, right? And this is kind of twofold. So I had sent this picture to Matt, and he was like, "We'll definitely talk about this." So this is offense specifically, but if you want to talk about like the lack of depth, which this goes back to my whole complaint about Breslow's approach to filling out the roster. This was the Red Sox starting lineup today against the Brewers. You had Duran leading off, Devers second. Fine. That's basically been the only constant of the entire season. Then you have Abreu third, Mayer hitting cleanup, Sogard, Story, Hamilton, Wong, and Cedon Rafaela. Like Rafaela's been your number 9 hitter all year. But like that lineup, like the word that I used with Matt earlier was putrid. And this to me is like, that's the lack of depth that I was talking about. Now, granted, like nobody really thought that Tristan Casas was going to bang knees with a first baseman running down to first base and tear his patellar tendon and be done for the year. Hard to predict that Alex Bregman was going to tweak his quad. I forget what it was, run into first base, like however he tweaked it. Trevor Story got off to a great start. Like I have his splits pulled up here. So first half versus second. Oh, well, it's all first half, but like if you go early in the season, so 30 games between March and April, 5 homers, 16 RBIs, stole 6 bases. He hit 260. Like that's probably a fair stat line for a guy like Trevor Story at Fenway at this point in his career.
It's pretty much what he was when we signed him outside of Coors Field too. Like that's just average, it's par for the course for him.
Yeah.
Which is good. I'll take it. So,
but then the calendar flips over to May. Now he played 30 games between those 2 months. In 22 games in May, which, obviously the end of the month is coming up on Saturday, so he's not going to get to 30 games. But in that same time frame, he has 1 home run, 9 RBIs. The strikeout numbers are more or less the same. He had 37 strikeouts in 30 games versus 30 strikeouts in 22 games so far. The big difference, he's hitting 157 this month. That's the big difference with Trevor Story. That's like really bad. So he can't like hit his way out of the paper bag that I was wearing to start this show. I don't think I'm quite ready to throw the towel in and be like, boot the guy out the door, DFA him, like trade him for a bag of peanuts if somebody's looking for him. However, I posed this question to Matt earlier, and it doesn't have to be this black and white. But again, I heard this on Section 10, so stealing from them, but a legitimate question is, would you call up Roman Anthony if it meant that you were going to basically throw the towel on the season and just develop your 3 core guys from now until the end of 2025 and basically just say, we're punting on 2025, whatever happens, happens, but we're going to groom these guys. We're going to give them all the major league time they can get for the remainder of the season with the hope that we're going to compete in 2026. Now, it doesn't have to be yes or no, but like, I'm at a point where I don't know why Roman Anthony is rotting away in Worcester when you have Cedon Rafaela, who can't do anything except for, like, every once in a while flash the glove in center. But I guess I'll pose the question. Like, do you borderline punt on the season and just say, we'll deal with the defense in the outfield with Roman Anthony on the roster? Like,
I mean, I don't know that I am there now, but I am trending in that direction. I mean, at some point you have to realize that what you've been doing up to this point isn't working. We're entering June on Sunday, and you have one of the worst offenses in the game right now over at least the past week. What is it, 5 runs in 37 innings or whatever it is? You can't stop striking out. Like, what you're doing isn't working. So, again, as I stand right now, no, but am I 2 feet in, but maybe I'm 1.5 feet in, 1.25 feet in, like onto what you're saying of punt and try again next year and just kind of get some momentum for these guys and groom them as.
When Ben asked me it, I said it was like it's just not really a logical like comparison, because like I think Anthony gives them the better chance to win than when he's not there. So the basis of it is that right now, though, if I didn't like answer that question for what it is, it's no, because they should still be fully trying to win games right now. If mid-July or early July comes and they're still hovering at this spot, like maybe, yeah, like you were kind of saying, Zach, like you're close to it. Like maybe at that point you would say yes to this question. But like I said, I think Anthony gives them a better chance to win baseball games.
And the fact that people will go to Fenway and watch him play. Like, if nothing else, because this comes back to, Matt, your question about, like, are the Red Sox doing everything in their power to win baseball games? And I think the obvious answer is no. But, like, if you're a guy like John Henry and you want people buying their Bud Lights and their Blue Moons and their Sam Adams and their hot dogs and, whatever else, putting money in his pocket, the best thing for him to do is to put Roman Anthony in a Red Sox jersey and put him put him in left or DH him, like put him somewhere in this lineup, and that way he can hit 119 mile per hour exit velo bombs to right at Fenway, not in Worcester in front of 1,500 people.
Right, and to that point, if we're saying that Roman Anthony gives you the best chance of winning baseball games, would it then not be true to then call him up so that you are also still trying to win baseball games? Again, going back to what we've done so far, we're not winning baseball games. If Roman Anthony in your lineup helps you win them, then I think by default you have to call. So maybe I am 2 feet in. Fuck it, bring him up. If you're trying to win baseball games, bring up Roman Anthony and get a switch up. What you're doing. What you're trying now hasn't worked. So yes, I'm 2 feet in to it.
Yeah, I'm more than willing to bring him up. And like you said, Ben, like you bring another level of attractiveness. And now the attendance at the Sox game, I think, has been relatively solid this year. But you add Anthony to the mix, and now, like, I mean, I could say personally, like, I would have an extra desire to go to a game because I want to go see the young guys play. Right? You want to go see Anthony and Mayer and Campbell play. And so there is really no explanation that's logical. And Breslow came out today and gave you the cliche, GM explanation of, there's still things we're trying to work with him, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, you're lying to me. Give me like the legit reason why. I think he'll be up within the next couple weeks, but he should have been up a month ago.
Red
3,
Sox
4 weeks
stats put
ago.
out that tweet, I think it was last night, maybe 2 nights ago, about like them wanting to, and this is all based around service time manipulation. If they think he's going to finish first or second in Rookie of the Year voting, they're trying to wait as long as they possibly can so that he can't do that, so that he gets an
Yeah,
extra
but that's
year.
like August.
Yeah, but like, unless if they think that he would then take time. Like, I think there's some truth to what he's saying. I don't think they're going to wait till
Yeah,
the
because
very
it's
end,
about
but-
Rookie of the Year. So if a team wins Rookie of the Year, a player on their team, they get an extra draft pick. So
Yeah.
if you bring up all 3 guys now, yeah, there's a good chance that one of them wins Rookie of the Year, but you lose out on that chance of maybe one this year and one next year.
Well, what he was saying
yeah,
too
like-
wasn't draft pick. It was like if they finish first or second, that counts as a year of service time, versus if they like wait. There was some way of doing it too, where like if they place that high up.
I'm not sure.
It's a
I don't know.
year.
Maybe I thought that like they've already passed that threshold of service time. There's like so many at bats for service time, but again,
Yeah.
like that's not my like concern right now. Like it's just not. Like in the realistic part with a guy like Roman Anthony is like you're gonna look at that and let's say he becomes a superstar and you want that one more year of control. It doesn't matter if you have that one more year control because you're going to need to pay him regardless. And if you're not going to pay him, you're going to end up trading him. So, like, yeah, you could hold on to him one extra year if that's really like that 6 years down the road. But like, if he's a star, you're going to either be paying him regardless, and it's just a year sooner, or you're going to be trading him regardless, and it'll be a year sooner. Which, like, yeah, ideally you hold on to him for as long as possible, but like when he's clear cut, you're basically losing out on a year right now for a year down the road. Like what are we doing here?
No,
You've got a really good team. You're wasting a talented roster in numerous different ways. Like it's time to step the F up and bring it up and put your best foot forward to try to win baseball games. And I'm sick and effing tired of watching this team throw out guys like Toro and Sogard and Rafaela and David Hamilton into the lineups when you got a guy like Roman Anthony sitting down in AAA.
Yeah, there's far too much
A guy
talent.
like Von Grissom is better.
There's far too much talent in the organization to put out a 4A ball club every single year. This was the first year that I was like excited about Red Sox, and then Comcast made me have to pay up to go to the next tier, and I almost did it, and now I'm happy I didn't because I would have been pissed if I had to watch this team every year by paying more. But yeah, I agree with you. I think like the service time manipulation stuff I've never agreed with. I do think it's just you're trading 1 year now when you could use it versus another year that you're gonna most likely
Some of
buy
them
up
are
anyway.
like you hold on to them for like if you hold on to them like 2 weeks into the season. Like I remember the Cubs did that with Chris Bryant. Like that's whatever. That's fine. But like if you're just letting a guy waste away in AAA all year.
Yeah, like what the Cubs did with Chris Bryant is kind of what I thought they would do with Roman Anthony. And like I forget what the number is. It's like 100. I think it's 145. No, it's 170 days, like on the major league roster. There's like 180 some odd days of a season, and there's a threshold where your arbitration clock, your service time clock, doesn't start if you spend. It's like less than 170 or 160 days on the full major league season on the major league roster. Like they're well beyond at this point. Like it's basically like the season starts end of March now. So it's like second or third week in April, depending on how the calendar works out, where like once you pass that, if you call somebody up, they won't be on the roster for enough days that they'll start their service and arbitration clock. So like at this point, they're either one of two things is happening. Either Breslow is like, why waste a year of service time on a team that we aren't confident is going to win, and on a team that he'll get consistent playing time. So like there's that component. The other component, which is pure speculation, regardless of where you fall on this, is we've clearly seen that Cora has an odd propensity to keeping Duran in left. He doesn't want to put Duran in center for one reason or another. So does Breslow want to call up Roman Anthony? And Alex Cora's like, well, Duran's our left fielder and Weiler's in right, and Anthony's not a center fielder. So what do you want me to do with him?
Tell Cora to shut up and deal with it.
Which like that's the weird part. That's like, not to go back to the whole like where do you put blame, but like that's where I have a hard time drawing the line. Is like, who's actually saying no to Roman Anthony being in a Red Sox uniform? Is it Breslow because he doesn't want to waste the time, because he doesn't believe in the team? He knows Bregman's going to be out for a while. There's no depth. They don't think they're going to compete. So why bother? But at the same, or is it that Cora's like, well, I'm not going to play him consistently because he's a corner outfielder and I have my corner outfielder. So like, where do you want me to play him? Like, who really knows? I think, there's certainly some contention there. And obviously we can tell that Alex Cora is in better favor with ownership than the GM, or whatever you want to call the GM, the chief baseball officer. We've seen that they prefer Cora to somebody else. So it's hard in that respect. But you look at Roman Anthony in 48 games in AAA, he has 8 homers, 39 RBIs. He's walking almost 20% of the time. That's absurd.
But David Hamilton is David Hamilton. So
his K rate is also 19.8%. Matt, you're I guess Zach, you are too. But with you guys being the younger non-millennials of the group, I don't know
Whoa.
I think I am I'm a millennial too.
Whoa.
What year were you born?
93.
You might be millennial.
97 is the start of the
You're
next generation.
You are definitely not a millennial. You were like born.
Millennial.
You had like you had just stopped
Millennial is
breastfeeding
96, baby. Don't call me a Gen X.
You had just stopped breastfeeding
Gen
when the
X.
turn of the century.
That's irrelevant.
Yeah, Gen X is whatever. But anyway, so I don't know what ISO stands for, but his isolation batting average is 209. I don't know. Again, I don't know what that number is, but you're looking at a guy who's hitting 320. His on base is 452. Like, his OPS is well over 900. And like, I don't know what more he has to do to prove that he's worthy of facing major league pitching on a team that, I don't know what the stat is now, but going into today, they had scored like 20 runs in their last 5 or 6 games. So what's that? They scored 5
runs in 37 innings.
So like, that's not good.
No, it's not. It's horrific.
Like there's prep high school teams that could probably score 5 runs in 37 innings at the major league level.
He never had 5 RBIs or hit 4 RBIs in one swing on Friday. Like, it's stupid.
It just, I mean, granted, he's under contract. It just feels like they're wasting an opportunity. Where I mean, like, I'd really have to. I suppose I could bring up the standings, but like, despite the fact that they're 4 games under 500, like, the division feels like it's gone. They're not. They're 9 games out of first. But they're only 4.5 games out of a wild card spot, which is not awful at the end of May. Like, it is very easily an attainable thing, to get back in the wild card hunt. 2 things that we touched on, I just want to go back to, and then I'll yield. We talked about the Red Sox early on, talked about the Red Sox in 1-run games. What do you guys want to take a guess as to what their record is in 1-run games? They have played
like 6-17 or something like that.
So I'll give you the number. So they have played 21 games where the difference in the score was 1 run.
They are.
So what's their record in those 21 games?
5-16.
I think it's 6-15. I think I heard it today, but that doesn't include last night.
So 6-15 in 1-run games. That's as of 5 minutes ago when I looked up the standings. The other thing is, oddly enough, despite the fact that they're not performing well, the Red Sox are at about 86% capacity on an average basis with their fan base. They're averaging 32,442 fans a night, which is just shy of 86% capacity.
which is up from previous years, which hovered around 30,000.
Correct.
Yeah, so I get like the fans are there. The fans want to, they want to root for a winning team, and so that's kind of why I think the noise is even louder than usual, because like prior years' expectations weren't that high. This year they are. So for them to be failing and falling down and losing games the way that they have been, people are pretty pissed off and they're frustrated. And I think Cora's job is under a microscope more than ever before. Like I said, I think Breslow as a whole did a solid job this offseason. Alex Cora, if he's the one making these roster decisions and these, lineup decisions, he has a lot of questions to answer.
Well, yes, he's filling out the lineup card, but again, just to play devil's advocate, if Breslow won't call up or acquire other players, like how much blame can you really throw at Alex Cora when the only other
he's still playing guys like David Hamilton more than he should.
Okay, so who should play over David Hamilton?
When they were healthy, he was getting 3 or 4 days a week when he should have been getting like 1 or 2 days a week when they were healthy and they had healthy guys sitting games.
Okay, but
around 500.
Okay, but who plays over David Hamilton
right now?
Yeah.
Well, right now it's a different conversation because they have their lineups out.
Okay, well, I would disagree with you. What players that play middle infield, which is what David Hamilton does, are not healthy enough to be playing over David Hamilton?
Well, when you have to move guys like Campbell to other positions, like he's been playing outfield because
no one's hurt. No one's hurt in the outfield. So who's he playing over? They're moving around.
He should. Well, that's the question. Like, that's the answer. He should not be playing.
But
still playing.
But again, who should be playing over David Hamilton a month ago or right now? Kristen Campbell.
Everybody the same answers.
You show me a name, I'm going to say it.
Anyway. But again, and I'm not fully disagreeing with you. I'm just for the sake of the argument.
Christian Campbell should be playing over him.
Okay, Christian Campbell, as of right now, is.
I don't give a shit. Like if he's been struggling.
So you would rather Christian Campbell, who can't hit a beach ball with a boat paddle, over David Hamilton.
David Hamilton, other than a very brief, solid stretch, has been ass all year. He had like a pretty solid 2-week stretch that boosted up his numbers a little bit. Prior to that, he was batting like 185.
He should be used as a pinch runner solely.
Sure, but what I'm saying though is that I would agree. Like Christian Campbell should be playing second base. I was like, if you average 5-6 games a week, he should be playing 4 or 5 of them at second base.
Hamilton should be a once to twice a week player guy.
I would agree.
He was playing 3 to 4 to 5 days a week for a lot of the season. So right now he's probably sitting at 3 or 4.
But I think that has more to do with guys like Christian Campbell and Trevor Story who have sucked over the last 6 weeks than it is over an injury problem. I think that's more.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like right now, I'm less frustrated about it because of the performance of the other guys. But like I said, like the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, 4 weeks of the season, like Story's crushing the ball to start the year. And we had a very good April, and Campbell was having a very good April. And we had April games where, Campbell's batting 400 in the first month of the season, and the dude's sitting on his ass because David Hamilton needs to come up and go 1 for 4 with a single, and then the next game he goes 0 for 4 with a single. I mean, with no single or any type of offensive production.
And isn't that when Cora said that they needed bats? Like was his excuse for it, to keep them warm?
He literally said we're trying to get everybody at bats because everyone was questioning that. Guys like Anthony Roman, guys like oh God, the guy with the mustache, Ben, that we had,
Romy
Gonzalez. I was having a mind blank of his name. Romy Gonzalez and David Hamilton were like. They were playing like 3 or 4 days a week in the first month of the season. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I get it's early in the season. You want to get everybody going and stuff like that. But like they literally sat guys like Story, who was playing very well, and Campbell, who was playing very well. Bregman got extra days off back at that point. Abreu wasn't playing versus a lot of lefties early, like the first few weeks of the season. And it was like, dude, like, what are we doing right now?
It's Cora being too much of a player's manager.
The fact is, like, we can talk about their disappointment over the last month or so, and that's true. But if they didn't do that over the first month of the season and they won an extra 2 to 3 games, right now we would be feeling slightly different, right? Like, and we know, oh, it's a 162 game season. Like, we got to play the long game. Like, people say that, but like, if you cost yourself 2 or 3 games, you know what's probably going to happen at the end of the year? You miss the playoffs because of 2 or 3 games.
Right.
Like, and people, and this goes back to like my displeasure with injuries and players taking forever to come back. Like, we talk about 162 games, like, oh, it's a long season, let's play the long game and all that. And then every single year, it comes down to the last week of the season for a few teams. It's like, I understand you're not going to like force people to play when they're injured and all that, but like, you lose, like, you give away a game or 2 a month because you dicked around and didn't try to win games to the max ability. And by the end of the season, instead of finishing 87, 88 wins, you're finishing with 81, 82 wins, and it's a completely different season.
Yep.
Right? You're talking about a 500 team that barely missed the playoffs to a team that was probably like the second or first wild card.
Right. Which I think
it's incredibly frustrating.
It feels to me, based on how they're managing this, though, that they know it comes down to the last, let's say, week and a half to 2 to 3 weeks of the season, and that they're playing for treading water until September and then be fully ready to go to make a final.
Yeah, but you can't predict that.
No, I know, but I'm not saying they are, but that's kind of what it feels like, isn't it? That they're perfectly fine. They're perfectly fine being like, well, it's only May 28th. Like, we're 4 games out. The Diamondbacks were 18 games under 500 in June one year, and then they got hot and they got in the playoffs and went to the World Series. It feels like that's the attitude, and I disagree. It's a piss poor attitude to have. But that just kind of feels like they're just like, well, ho hum,
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, probably.
And I'd like to think not, but it's hard to look at what they've been over the last 58 games of the season, first 58 games of the season, and think that they're anything other than like, let's just tread water and figure it out. And now that Bregman's hurt and we don't have the pitching depth, let's just.
This goes back to the frustration like Belichick when he used to say the first 4 weeks are like an extension of the preseason. I don't know who needs to like tell these people, but a win in April counts the exact same as a win in September. Right? Yes. So instead of going into September hovering around the wild card, how about let's go into September 3 or 4 games up on a wild card spot, so that if you do have a 500 type September, you're not screwed and done, and you have no chance at the playoffs.
Well,
again, it
should be the mentality, considering how poorly Core's teams have performed in the back half of the year. That should absolutely be the mindset going in. Is win as many games as you possibly can. Maybe steal a few that you probably shouldn't win in the beginning of the year, April, May. If you play games in March, whatever. When other teams
try to win every game,
just every game, it would be nice, so that when you inevitably, crap your pants in August and go, 4-28, you don't have to worry about, the times that you had to play Rob Refsnyder in left field because, Jarren Duran needed a breather. I totally agree with you. I think that Cora, and I don't know if it's Cora's thing or if it's the full team mindset, but the mentality of, oh, we'll just get him next time is such a bad loser mentality. And I can't stand it any longer.
It's frustrating. Yep.
All right. That's enough Red Sox. I do want to give us 10, 15 minutes here. And I guess I'll just ask a pretty basic question. Is Stephon Diggs doing pink cocaine? Like,
No.
No.
Um,
He might be, but I don't think he is.
yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I might not be able to say that word. Pink candy.
Pink?
Cotton
Oh.
candy.
I was like, you can't say pink? Like, that's weird.
Pink cotton
Too.
candy.
I didn't know what he was saying.
You've definitely said worse on here, Matt. But I digress. It feels like
My wife goes, "What are you doing?"
it feels like I don't know if you guys heard Vrabel's comments from earlier today.
Yeah.
They asked him about Diggs, and he basically said that like he's only going to talk about the players that are there, which like is when I heard that I was like, does Bill Belichick have like a thing in his ear and he's just feeding Mike Vrabel some talking points? But the thing about Diggs, like Vrabel seemed a little bit kind of nonchalant about it. Not nonchalant. He seemed like, this is the voluntary component of our offseason. Like Diggs, obviously, he's still rehabbing a torn ACL from 2024. And by all indications, he's on track to be ready to go for week 1. So who really knows where he's at in his rehab process? Like there's the piece about, every player is going to recover different. They have a different off-season like recovery program with respect to not recovery, but like rehab program. Like his recovery is going to respond based on how he's rehabbing the issue. I don't really read too much into him not being.
You muted yourself somehow, Ben, but yeah, I think the way that Vrabel handled it was perfect. Like, you're not going to talk about the players that are here. We'll handle it internally. Very Bill Belichickian. I agree. And he didn't like kind of make a bigger deal than it needed to be. I think the way Vrabel went about it was great. Diggs, again, it is OTAs, it's voluntary. Doesn't have to be there. Would be nice if he was, but yeah, no, I think. Again, if there was a way to handle it, that was the way to do it. And it's certainly, it tells the team, don't do it. Like there's a way to handle yourself on and off the field. Handle it with professionalism. He's basically telling Diggs that he, isn't happy with what happened, but we're going to handle it internally and go from there. So yeah, I think that the way he handled it was fine. But I don't think he's actually doing anything. I don't know what that was that was in his hand.
No, I don't know what the hell that was that Diggs had. It might have been the cotton candy. Nice way to say it. Pink sugar. I don't know. Crystals. But it's not a good look either way. He's obviously not at OTAs. I would have liked to see him there. Truth be told, like in terms of prep for the season and all that, like him being there or not doesn't matter in that sense. Like he'll be ready. He'll know the offense. I'm not worried about that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have liked to see him there for, as a veteran leader, if that's what you're going to try to sell yourself on, and be a guy that's, going to be a leader in the wide receiver room. That's a very young room. And so for him to not show up at OTAs is, a little bit disappointing. I would have liked to see him there. But in terms of this actual, like what the question I asked is, it might be, but I don't think this is going to be a story of much of anything.
No, and he's been at OTAs. He's just not there. He wasn't there this week. Like he was there last week.
Yeah.
So it like this to me feels more like a. I don't want to say
lack of something going on. So here's a story to drum something up versus anything else.
And I don't know. I don't know if it's like a quote unquote like a load management, but this is probably just part of his rehab process where, it's a little bit of light work, take some time off, give time for the knee to like get its strength back, like get back to where it needs to be.
I think he was back today, like practicing on the field.
Yeah, I saw videos on Twitter.
Oh, really? Okay, because I know that during Vrabel's press conference, they were asking him about his absence. I assumed he just wasn't there again today.
In terms of the actual substance conversation, like I don't think that they could prove anything either way, right?
No.
And speaking of that, I don't know if Rad's listening right now, but he just put Diggs on the trade block in one of my leagues. But like, I don't think they could prove anything. Like, they can't prove that was that, you know what I mean, type of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't think anything will come of it legally, like within the league and stuff like that. But like I said, I would have liked to just see him there. So it's frustrating that he's not. But I also don't think it's the end of the world. Like,
No, not in May.
If he's not ready week one, whether it's physically from his injury or understanding the offense or being on the same page with Drake May, him not being at these couple days of OTAs is not the reason why.
Nope.
If you can't get on the same page over like a 6-week training camp, like it's not going to matter what you would have done in freaking May of that year if you can't get on it through 6 straight weeks of practice and stuff like that.
Correct.
So yeah, I'm not too worked up about it, but one more conversation that we have been meaning to get to for a while now. We finally will. The Bill Belichick. I don't know, man. I don't know if he's lost it. I don't know if this is all just one big game for him. But he's at UNC now. He is supposedly engaged to Miss Jordan Hudson, a 24-year-old
Smoke show.
former runner-up of Miss Maine or something like that.
She came in third.
Third?
Runner-up to the runner-up.
Runner-up to the runner-up.
That's what the internet. That's what the internet says anyway.
Beautiful woman, but you know, he is what, 78, 79 years old. He is 24. She is 24. She is younger than his children.
Bill is 73, not 78.
Okay.
Not that makes it any better, but Bill is not 70 years old. He's only 50. He's only 49 years older than Jordan.
Yeah, only. Be 2 generations. Like, Belichick could, like, realistically be the great grandfather of this girl.
If it was 50 years old, that'd be the cutoff. But 49 is just
49.
I mean, Matt, I don't know. I don't know how young people have kids nowadays, but 50 years is not great grandfather type age gap, buddy.
I'm saying if you had kids like
at 16.
No,
like
if you 22, if you had 22, and 22, 3 young 20 like parents. I know there's some grandmothers that are like 45 years old.
There's not many of them left.
No, I mean, like it doesn't happen as often as it is,
but it could be.
Like realistically, you could have a kid at 20, right?
Yeah. So hey, 40. So what are you waiting for? Let's go.
No, listen. When you're 40, they could have a kid at 20. Again, this is 20. I'm not even saying 16. So at 40 years old, you could be a grandmother, grandfather. At 60, you could be a great grandfather easily, very easily.
Biologically, yes. Realistically, no.
No, statistically, it's unlikely that 3 generations all have kids in their early 20s. But given trends, it's not uncommon for like 2, where like you have a 16-year-old parent and you're a 16-year-old kid having a baby and you raise them and you're inexperienced and immature, and then that person gets knocked up. That kid gets knocked up early.
Hashtag biology lessons with McAtor.
Yeah, like I said, there was a girl that I grew up with in high school that
in the great American town of Drake, Massachusetts.
Yeah, when we were 16, her mom was 34, and then her grandmother had her mom when she was 16.
Sounds like poor life.
So her grandmother was 50, and had 50-year-old grandmother with a 16-year-old granddaughter.
So there you go.
That's a
How old was her mom?
poor life choices. That's what.
82.
I'm not. I don't know. I think that they might have had. I mean, at that point, that generation, they had them young.
Yeah, true. That is
Yeah.
true too.
So like the grandmother, the great grandmother might have been even pretty young. But anyways,
The all-time
Bill
sidetrack.
Belichick. We got off track. Bill Belichick has he
Bill
lost?
Belichick's great granddaughter, aka his wife.
Yeah. Supposedly, so the story came out that Linda Holiday was part of an event. Jordan Hudson showed up to said event,
Linda.
and Linda was furious and got Jordan kicked out of said event.
Ooh. Dun, dun,
I
dun.
believe, unconfirmed, but I believe Linda Holiday is still living in a Bill Belichick owned home down in Nantucket.
I thought you were gonna say. I thought you were gonna stop at living. Not that she was living in his house. I was like, oh, where are you going with this, buddy?
And on top of that, there's conversations that if we talked about the video, the ring camera video that we saw a couple of years back.
Oh,
that
Bill
was
Belichick shirtless wandering out of somebody's
Yeah.
front door.
Mm-hmm.
That was from an Airbnb supposedly.
Could have been Jordan's Airbnb.
Yeah, and Pablo Torre, I think his name is. He's kind of like a round the horn guy that we knew from ESPN. For some reason, he has decided to just like spearhead this entire thing, and has decided to kind of go to war with the Belichick family and all that. So he's been diving deep into this. There's a lot of conversations of how long and when do they start dating. It's been as soon as maybe when she was 19, which is just flat out ridiculous.
He had to wait for her to be legally old enough to drink.
Well, the conversation was that they started dating in the beginning of 2021. I went to a Falcons game down in Atlanta, Patriots-Falcons game in November or October of 2021, and Linda Holiday was there with Belichick. So that's where I think the time frame started overlapping, and I think that they eventually probably split soon after that. But anyways, I mean, basic question is has Belichick lost it? Like, what's going on?
I think it makes him a massive hypocrite. For the past 30 years, 25 years, all it's been is no distractions, ignore the noise, ego at the door, and no publicity, do what's best for the team. Like everything that he is not right now. So for him to be doing all this and then to have that CBS interview where she's running the show and he's just like looking to her, it's a complete distraction. Like he would cut himself if he was his own coach at this point. So I think it's a complete like hypocritical thing for him to do, especially if he's going to go into UNC, which by the way, if that even sticks, we'll have to wait and see. But for him to come and try to recruit players to his team and say no distractions, ego at the door, head down, no publicity, whatever, and then have this chick running around as if this whole thing is blowing up. It doesn't look good. Like I said, he would cut himself, and it just makes it. I don't think he's fully lost it, but there's certainly something that's we haven't uncovered yet with this whole situation, and it's gross to say the least. But like, she's devious enough to be pulling this off. So
I don't know. See, I don't know if he's lost it. I mean, all the power to him. If people fall in love for a variety of different reasons, hers might look like the color of money because she wants his money.
Portfolio
but
now.
I mean, he's 73. He just, again, all the power to him. If this makes him happy, who really knows? I don't know what makes him happy because he never looks happy. But it is odd for a guy his age to be getting caught on ring cameras, sneaking out of someone's front door at ungodly hours of the day. Usually those days are over when you're in your 20s. And then you finally decide to settle down and be serious about your life. But I don't know. He's at a weird crossroads in his life. He goes back to college. I don't know what you're. Oh, this is the ring camera video. Yeah, he looks.
Oh yeah.
Is that Sleepy Joe? Lost in Nantucket. So it's tough, right? Like, so he's at a weird spot in his life where, he and Kraft mutually parted ways. If you really believe that, the job that made him a Hall of Fame coach, one of the all-time, arguably the greatest coach of all time, takes a year off. It was kind of nice to see some personality on TV. I'm not going to lie. I didn't think Bill Belichick knew how to smile after all the years of seeing him on the sidelines with a grumpy old man face. But see, I don't know if he's lost it. He might physically and emotionally be lost in the universe because he doesn't really know what to do from here. He obviously still wants to coach. I think that his style of coaching is a dying breed in the NFL by modern standards. And I think he looks at it and says, he wants the opportunity to keep coaching and took an opportunity to make some decent money at a, not a terrible program, but certainly not a top program in the country. And, doesn't want to be lonely in his old age. And this is where he landed. Wish him nothing but love and happiness. But I mean,
he had a wonderful lady in Linda Holiday by his side, and
with my personal experience knowing Linda's in this world, I don't really know if wonderful lady is a way that I would describe the Lindas that exist on planet Earth.
That seems like a personal grudge.
No, one was an umpire. I always warned my kids that if Linda was behind the plate, Linda means business. She had the longest gray ponytail you'd ever see on a human being. It would rival any hairstyle of the 1960s. And then I had a boss named Linda, and she was the most miserable person at the company. So kind of 0 for 2 with the Lindas that I know in my life.
Well, anyways, Linda was a nice lady, Bill Belichick's Linda, but clearly, I guess she got too many wrinkles, something like that.
Hey, wait a minute.
Thinking of Leo DiCaprio.
That's good. Bill Belichick is not Leonardo DiCaprio. That is not Bill Belichick. It's not Leo's aliens.
And so he decided to upgrade. So okay, but it's more just like what he's allowed her to get a hold of in his life. She seems to be handling all his PR, seems to be handling like all his day-to-day management and all that type of stuff. And she has like essentially taken control of this guy's life. Like the dude that for 20 plus years here was like king of the castle, leaves the castle and immediately gets like his ass taken to the cleaners by this chick that, excuse me, that just immediately took over like huge parts of his life. I guess in theory she could have been doing a lot more of this in New England and we just didn't know. But big picture, like it's a really rough look. His kids are probably looking at this saying like, what is going on? Like what
my inheritance money going down the drain?
Yeah. She supposedly has amassed over $9 million in real estate since 2021, which is like roughly when they started dating. How many 21-year-olds, how many 24-year-olds have a $9 million portfolio in real estate with a job that she doesn't have? Like she doesn't have a job, right?
So like, the answer to that question is they all exist on OnlyFans.
Yeah. And so like the question is like, there's not the question. The answer is she got all this money from one spot, and it's
Bill Belichick's wallet.
Bill Belichick's wallet. And so, this dude is just handing out millions of dollars. And if I'm his kids, I'm like, not that I'm chasing the inheritance, but like, what are you doing? It's this woman that you're just like handing millions of dollars in real estate to, and now she is like running your life and making all these decisions, and you're sitting in on interviews and you're like controlling an interview at CBS when you have no experience in this shit. she has no experience running like PR for an athlete or a famous actor or anything like that. And so she's just kind of taken over his shit, and he's allowed it, and it's become a part of him now, which is like sad.
Yeah.
You know, when we talk about the legacy of Belichick, 20 years from now, I think we'll be able to separate this from what he did in the NFL when we talk about his NFL legacy.
Should be able to, yeah.
But when we talk about like his entire legacy as a whole, like it's going to be
just permanently attached to it.
2018 here with the Patriots, and by the time he was fired, like, yeah, I was down here. But like then he left and it went way, 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 way down.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Oh. And so it's an embarrassing situation.
Ever since he sat Malcolm Butler, if he had just played him, they would have won that. He could have ridden off into the sunset, and we never would have known about any of this. But
him and Brady would have
team Bill.
Him and Brady,
not for me.
Yeah, him and Brady would have three-peated, and it would have been a done deal.
Well, I think he would have.
Not only that, if he just didn't go to UNC, we probably wouldn't hear most of this.
Yeah, true.
Right? Like,
no, I think you would definitely still hear about it. It just would.
Yes, but not to the same, because she wouldn't be handling like football shit and like wouldn't be seen at practices.
She wouldn't have blown up the Hard Knocks thing. Like,
no, that's true.
That was, so
I mean, it would still be, Bill Belichick, Hall of Fame coach, marrying a 24-year-old.
Yes, that would have been a big story.
Yeah,
but
it wouldn't.
There wouldn't be the layer of the college football.
Yeah, half the reason this is so terrible is because of it's affecting his life in a bad way.
He's gonna
it's not like he's not just this old dude who's gonna marry a young broad. Like,
no, we still know about it because he wrote a book. Like, even if he didn't have the UNC thing, his book.
He wrote a book that didn't mention Robert Kraft like one time. Like, all right. Like, let me read that book that doesn't mention the team owner that you worked for your entire career, basically.
That you came back to in the 90s. But
yeah,
I'm reading it now, so don't tell me how it ends. I know how it ends. But
all right. We'll wrap it up there. We got a lot into this. Moral of this podcast is the Red Sox suck.
Failure.
Garbage.
Diggs likes pig cotton candy.
Failure.
And Bill Belichick is
a horn dog.
Is a 4-letter word that begins with C. It has a K at the end and 2 letters in between. But I won't say it. And that's the fact. Like, he's just Ben's still confused. I think Zach picked up on the word.
I had the wrong second letter for a while, but I think I'm good now.
There's 2 words sticking out in my.
There's really only 2 words that it can be. One I'm not. Why would I call him that? The other.
That's what I was like. Where does that come into play? But then the second one kicked in. I was like,
yeah. So, I hope he figures it out. I really do. I've been very hard on him since he left New England and like what his failures were over the final few years here. But I want to see him succeed at UNC. I would love to see that, like, him bring a life to that program, and they're like a top 25 team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And he shows that he can still coach, but. Now it seems like no matter what he does on the field, it's going to be having this big shadow that is Jordan Hudson.
At least in the short term, yes. Like
until he figures, maybe like she can get out of his business and like it can die down and it's not that much of a story come September and football season and stuff like that.
Yeah, like he needs to win it. He needs to win at UNC, or it's going to go downhill fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like I said, June 1st, his buyout goes from $10 million to $1 million. So could he just walk away? I don't know.
Maybe.
But all right. Any final words here? Any final comments? You could do a state your take if you have one.
Take back off what you said and say that he won't be the head coach of UNC. by the time the start of the
All
season
right.
starts. I think the $10 million buyout going down to $1 million is the kicker, and I think Jordan Hudson is just driving his like value into the ground, and I think they're going to have enough and be fed up and say we'll cut our losses and find someone else.
All right, Ben, you got something in the chamber?
Yeah, state your take. Arkansas over North Carolina in the Men's College World Series Finals. Shout out UNC. Regional start on Friday. I filled out my brackets today during a slow time at work. Don't tell my boss. She doesn't watch this, so I'm not worried about it. By all means, I do not have a boss named Linda. Yeah, Arkansas over North Carolina for their first ever Division I men's baseball championship.
All right, I'll just go. I took LSU to win their regional because Ben did not, and I'm an LSU fan. So
that is not correct. I picked LSU to win their region. I picked them to lose in the super regionals.
Oh, okay. All right. I hit my two big bets today.
If they lose in the regional, that's like I have them matching up against Clemson in the supers, which is a tricky matchup. But like, so fine if they lose that. If they don't make it out of their own region, that's pretty tough. Like Dallas Baptist is the 2 seed in that region. They're a good team, but I don't think they're good enough to hang with LSU.
I think LSU was. I got a -120. Yeah. So, I hit on White. I had a gut feeling today. White Sox money line, Michael Vargas to get a hit. I hit on that today too. I'm riding high right now.
Look at you go.
Yeah, I'm been right on last week betting wise. So maybe I'll send you guys some winners your way. We can we could do a bet of the week next week.
Winner,
there you go.
Winner, Matt Couture dinner.
Yeah,
I'll buy dinner for everybody. Speaking of that, I went to the Red Sox game on Friday that got rained out. I got there 50 minutes before and still did not get a Devers bobblehead. They were already out. I was freaking pissed.
I'm sure you could buy one on eBay for like $120.
Did I buy one on eBay today? Maybe.
That's a yes.
Nicole's with his winnings from all the betting he's been doing.
Fast forward 24 hours. Hey Matt,
it wasn't much funny.
What is this eBay charge on our credit card statement?
Yeah, what is this $717? There was a bunch of them available, and so they were all going. I think I got it for like $25 or something like that.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, that's gonna do it. Where is the banner? We'll be back next week. Go Sox. Hopefully they can stop sucking.
Yeah,
score
some runs.
Yeah, they get Spencer Strider this weekend, and what's that other guy?
Claudzilla.
Yeah. He has a weird last name. I forget his last name, but they get both of them this weekend. So that's great. They're in trouble. So all right. Until next week. Goodbye. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.